And we're talking this morning with Dr. Eudene Harry about pancreatic cancer, a conversation brought to you by Marcus and Mack, a law firm representing injured people. She is a board-certified medical expert in preventative medicine. Dr. Harry, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Wonderful, and it's good to have you on the air with us today. Hey, I
Thank
don't
you.
want to have to sing the pancreas song to you from Haywood Banks, but I'm sure you've heard it. The pancreas is it's a mysterious organ, isn't it? And so when we hear about illnesses of the pancreas, and particularly pancreatic cancer, there certainly is a bunch of mystery surrounding it.
Yes. And it is a mysterious organ. It's a funny shaped organ, looks like a pear on its side. And it's located in just an area where it's really difficult to even appreciate on examination as a physician, I can tell you. And it has two major functions. So it has a digestive function, helps with digestion, but it also helps to control blood sugar. Most of the issues with pancreatic cancer, most of the cancers that happen, tends to happen in the digestive part of the pancreas.
So we hear of course, the high-profile names of people who've been afflicted with it and have passed away. Alex Trebek most recently. My family doctor from when I was a kid seemed to be one of those invincible guys. He passed away from pancreatic cancer. Mm-hmm. It is particularly insidious. This one doesn't let you go, does it?
No, and it's so difficult to diagnose early. You know, we have early detection for colon cancer and breast cancer. The issue is that we don't have a really good early detection for pancreatic cancer, and oftentimes in the early stages, it is asymptomatic, and you may not feel anything at all until it starts affecting other things or start obstructing things and spreading to other places, and that's when the symptoms come up. And at that point, that's when people are usually mostly diagnosed, and at that point, that's when the survival rate becomes an issue because now we're in a later stage of the disease.
So those advanced stages, that's when we're first going to notice that there's something wrong. So are there ways that we can learn ahead of time? Obviously, symptoms aren't going to crop up until we've advanced a little bit, but can it be detected in any way earlier?
Well, there are some detection tests that are out there. Let's say, for example, you're considered at high risk, and so some high-risk things are smoking. Smokers have twice the likelihood of developing pancreatic cancer than non-smokers. Diabetics, obesity, chronic inflammation of the pancreas or pancreatitis, certain genetic diseases are linked, and this is important, are linked with increased risk of pancreatic cancer. And those with a strong familial history, those are the ones that are usually tend to be monitored a little bit more closely. So I know many people may have heard about the tumor markers, and they're thinking, well, isn't there a tumor marker for pancreatic cancer? And there is the CA19-9 is one that's used for that, but it's not an infallible test because sometimes it can be elevated and you don't have it, and sometimes it can not be elevated and you have it. So it's really a good test for monitoring it to see how treatment is going, for example. Some beautiful things on the horizon that are happening is that we have some newer screening genetic things, again, that are not geared for general public screening, but for people with higher risk of familial cancer. So there are some evaluating the pancreatic juices for some DNA changes in certain oncogenes or genes for cancer may indicate that you're developing early stages of cancer. And I'm looking forward to that being perfected to a place where we can say for sure. If your doctor suspects or if you have symptoms or you're at significant risk, you might think of things. He might say, okay, let's get an MRI or let's get a CAT scan or a PET scan. Mm-hmm. There's an ultrasound that you can do, an endoscopic ultrasound that gives you a better look at that area of the pancreas that might be able to diagnose it at an earlier stage.
One of a couple of the things that you mentioned had to do with some of our behaviors. Are there preventative measures, things we should avoid, or things that we should be eating or taking that would help us to maybe stand in the way of developing pancreatic cancer?
I like that terminology. I have to use that, stand in the way of it, because many of the dietary things that we know really don't help us with heart and brain, et cetera, also seem to be linked with it. So there have been studies that have looked at processed meats and saturated fats and sugary drinks, things that we know that have been linked with other diseases seem to also be linked with increased risk of pancreatic cancer as well. And inactivity, lack of physical activity has also been linked with that. And the people will say, yeah, the studies are not completely done and we need more studies. But I say if it really addresses so many other chronic illnesses, then why not? Why not do it? I would also say one of the things that's been definitively linked is heavy alcohol use, because it can induce pancreatitis and inflammation of the pancreas. So that's another thing that we might want to pay attention to, especially if we have other risk factors as well.
We're talking to Dr. Eudene Harry about pancreatic cancer. More than 90% of people die within 5 years of their diagnosis, and 97% of patients have the cancer spread to other parts of their body. Those are scary numbers, and I'm sure that you are much interested in the research and where it's going. So 4-5 years down the road, has the situation improved much better than it is now, do you think?
I'm looking forward to it be improving. Yes, I'm looking at this, and I am very hopeful and optimistic that it will. Especially, things tend to get pushed along a little bit further when we have some high-profile things going on. And I know those researchers are really busy, because all of us are so excited about some of the things that we are seeing developed, that we would like to see something that comes up as more of a general screening that you would do, for example, like colon cancer, which we know if it's caught early, or even precancerous polyps, those are removed, and we're usually good. This would be a good one as well. So I'm very optimistic about it.
Those are in therapy, or rather in detection. What about therapeutics for it? Are you looking forward? I'm sure you're looking forward to the day when there will be some sort of treatment that can solve this big problem. But obviously, you're looking ahead at that as well. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. I'm looking at some of the vaccines that are out there to boost the body's immune system so that it responds to pancreatic cancer better. That's another hopeful thing that I'm looking forward to. There's some personalized targeted treatment now that can analyze the cancer and particularly target it. So those are exciting as well. So there's so much to really look forward to with this, besides the standard radiation and chemotherapy that goes along with it.
Meanwhile, we will look forward to that day along with you, and you'll certainly, I'm sure, be very excited to be one day talking about how we can not only live with having that diagnosis, but even prevent that diagnosis in the future. We appreciate your time so much for visiting with us this morning.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day today.
You too.
Dr. Eudene Harry with us here this morning talking about pancreatic cancer, which in this year has taken the lives of Alex Trebek, of course, as we know, and others, including Judge Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Representative John Lewis,